It's good. Oh, hello. We will wait a moment. I'm going to get my ice. We will wait on people. Just take a moment.
Look how nice and cozy this is, huh?
This is cozy as hell,
We are
actually.
Cozy. Very cozy.
Just nailing life right now at this moment. It may be a little grainy tonight because the Wi-Fi isn't very strong. So I'm just running off my phone signal. I hope all of you are just living your best lives this evening. I'm very happy to be here right now. As many of you know, I am about 2 hours north of New York, doing Into the Woods right now, ice pack on my bruise, and Sherry and her husband Joe came up to see the show, and so this could coincide with our monthly breastfeeding and pumping Q&A that we do with Evenflo, and it's also the kickoff of a World Breastfeeding Week.
It is a perfect night
which
for
is
this.
Exciting. So we are just here. I have all of your questions on my computer over here. And so we're here. So all of you know me, I would hope, since you follow this page. So I'm just going to let Sherry, give, as I always do, a brief introduction to herself, and then we will get to business.
It is an awesome night tonight. We're doing this a little bit different, and it's always great. But tonight, like you said, it's the beginning of World Breastfeeding Month, and I say month because we celebrate the whole month. Why not? And here we are, and let me tell you, we saw Jamie last night at Into the Woods, doing his performance into it, and it was awesome. He was amazing. It was so cool to see you doing your thing.
My former life.
Your former
sometimes
life.
Current life as an actor.
It was awesome. It was awesome. What a joy. So, totally awesome. For those of you guys who don't know me, probably at this point most of you do, because I've been doing this with you for quite a while now.
Yep.
But for those of you who don't know me, I'm a registered nurse. I'm a certified nurse midwife. I'm a board certified lactation consultant. I've been taking care of my mamas and babies for 25 years. And I'm here to answer your questions tonight. So this is our favorite night of the month.
We have a good time.
We get to do this and be with you guys and love it.
And now we're just sitting in a B&B in Hudson, New York.
We are.
We had to turn the AC off because it's loud. You know, it's just a little individual unit.
We may
sweat. We may have to turn it back on. So there may be some noise. Yeah, it has been a while since we've been here together. You are correct. And this is what I'm happy about. It has been a bit since we've been together.
Yeah.
We had some very good fried food this evening.
The food was so good. I thought I was going to fall asleep afterwards.
I swear I had to have a coffee. I had to have a coffee after it because I was going to be going to bed. But just to get this out of the way, I know many of you are concerned about the bruise. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the bruise on my head is right here. So what happened? I fell off the stage. I tripped on a fellow actor's feet. I tripped and I fell off of the stage. And the stage is about this, maybe 2 feet off the ground. Okay? So I tripped and I spun. So my thigh hit the actual corner of the stage, a point. And then my head, I'm in a big coat at that point, so I couldn't stop myself. So my own skull did this onto the actual floor. It was not pleasant. I was very dazed. I collected my thoughts. And then I ran off stage and had to do a quick change into another outfit. So it was a process. I'm fine. So it's great. But this is what my head looks like. My head is getting better. But since we're all family here, I'm going to show you something real special. And it involves me taking off my pants. So I'm gonna keep as much as I can out of the picture. So work with me here. The bruise is a lot.
It's so bad. Oh, take it off, Jamie.
I'm gonna try to do this without exposing.
The windows are open.
That's fine. I'm gonna cover things with the ice bag. Okay. Look at that bruise, though. Look at that.
It's so bad.
Isn't that cute?
Oh.
I'm completely out of frame. I'm being very good. There are children watching. But that is a bruise, kids. That is an actual bruise on my leg. That is not makeup. It is some kind of galaxy. The Hubble telescope took this. NASA owns the rights to it. But that is what I'm dealing with. So I am taking arnica and ice. It's real pleasant. So, shot of my underwear and a bruise. We're living life. So that's great. So back to breastfeeding. It hurts like hell. I'm not gonna lie. It's very tender. Luckily, I have a couple days off. My next show is Wednesday, so I can rest and live my life. So tonight is very different because it's the beginning. It's already very different. So since it's World Breastfeeding Week, Evenflo has decided we're going to be generous. So we have 5 bundles tonight. We have 5 winners instead of just 1. So
pumps.
5 people are going to win pumps, bags, and the adapters, which is a great bundle. Very exciting. Thank you, Evenflo. Thank you for allowing us to do this. Thank you for the text messages, Evenflo, and the support during my time of need with this bruise. So we have a couple questions here. We're just going to get right down because we're the nitty-gritty titty committee. And we're going for it. So a few people left questions on Sherry's Facebook wall. So I'm going to go for it now. We're going to, I've got them over here. I'm going to ask Sherry. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to live your best life. And I'm going to ice. So Shanice has a question. And she says, are there foods I should be cautious of eating while breastfeeding?
Such a good question. Okay, so when it comes to breastfeeding, you will hear so many different myths and, different old wives' tales about what things you should avoid, what things you shouldn't eat, that spicy food's going to cause your baby to react, or that you shouldn't eat beans, or that you shouldn't eat broccoli. And I'll have moms who are practically eating nothing because they think that's what's making their baby gassy. And the truth is that pretty much you can eat anything that you want, and you should. You should go ahead and eat whatever it is that you normally eat for your diet. In fact, what you eat is the flavors are going to be, it's going to start to taste that way in the milk. So the baby starts to get used to the different cultural foods that you eat. It just doesn't work that way where something that would make you gassy is going to it's not like you eat broccoli and it goes into your milk and the baby gets gassy.
It's very different. And there are foods you should avoid in terms of food that can affect your milk supply. That is different.
That's different.
That's very different.
That's different.
But just in terms of regular old food.
And even that, there's some things that can decrease milk supply, but you'd have to eat them in pretty large quantities, whether that's peppermint or sage. There's certain things that can actually dry up your milk. But when we're talking about foods to avoid, people are usually referring to gassy spicy gut stuff, tomato sauce.
People in other
broccoli.
Cultures don't completely stop eating their diet just when they're pregnant or they're nursing
and you're actually it is the breast milk takes on the flavors for a particular purpose. In fact, even when you're pregnant, your amniotic fluid will take on flavors of the foods that you're eating, and babies are developing their taste buds in utero and then afterwards through the breast milk. So it's very interesting the way this works, and it does help to think about children in different cultures. They're eating foods that a lot of our kids would never eat, but that's because they've been exposed to it before birth. So
fair.
There you go.
There you go. Courtney has a question. Hey, I was talking to a friend and her mother about breastfeeding, and her mother had said that her children didn't like it. What are the chances of a child not liking breast milk?
This is a really interesting question because the answer to a child not liking breast milk, like just straight out not liking breast milk, that's almost impossible. Okay, babies are going to like the taste of breast milk. For any of you who have tasted breast milk, it is very sweet. Okay, it's very high. It's 10 times higher in lactose than regular cow's milk, which is the milk sugar. So breast milk is extremely sweet. So it's very unusual for a baby that they would not like the taste of breast milk. But there are other things that could be going on. One is the baby could have been struggling with just latching or nursing. That's different than not liking the milk. So it just always goes back to the perception of why a mom thinks that their baby's not eating. It could be that she had a slow letdown and the baby was, frustrated, waiting for the milk to let down, so crying, and the mom took that as a sign that the baby didn't like the milk. There's also times where, and I think there's another question at some point I read, where, when we freeze milk, some moms have a higher lipase in their milk.
I never pronounced that right, so I'm glad she said it before me. Lipase.
Lipase. Okay, so that's an enzyme that's in the milk, and really, that will never be an issue when you're nursing directly from the breast, because it's not going to impact the milk, the fresh milk, but it can impact frozen milk. So that, if you're freezing your milk, you could take your milk out of the freezer and it can have like a strong soapy smell to it or a strange taste to it, and then a baby could possibly not want to drink the milk. If that is the case, and that's not so uncommon, like there are a lot of moms who have this issue. Remember, we were never intended to freeze milk.
Yeah.
Right? So it would normally not be an issue, except for all of us who do have to freeze milk and go to work and have a freezer supply. So it's a sort of a new thing that we see because now moms do pump and freeze milk. There is a way to combat that if your lipase is high and you're noticing that smell. If the baby's drinking it and there's no issue, it really doesn't matter. It's not that the milk is bad. It's if your baby's just refusing to drink the milk, there are ways to scald it, which is right after you pump it, putting it into a pan, searing it, like scalding it really hot, so you see little bubbles around, and then freezing it. And that should reduce the lipase in it and keep the odor and the taste normal.
Very good, very good. And I'm sorry if my crinkly ice bag gets too loud, but Mama's hurt. So this is good. Kaylee has a question. My son is about 72 hours old now. Is it normal for him to be wanting to be at the breast so much? I believe my milk is coming in because I can hear gulping noises and he's pooping and peeing up a storm. He's not bringing anything up when he's burped though. It seems like he's always rooting around and will be constantly at the breast.
A normal breastfed baby. What do you know? 72 hours old. Babies want to be at the breast all the time, some of them. And it doesn't just mean that they're hungry. Remember, babies are eating not just for food, but they're sucking to suck, and they're sucking for comfort, and they're sucking for that closeness to you. And so you'll see that the baby's sometimes eating and sometimes swallowing and sometimes just sucking because they need to suck. Sucking is a really strong reflex, especially for a newborn. It's a life-sustaining reflex in a baby, and so they want to suck. And so the baby will root, and this is, one of those things where, when a baby roots, what we're talking about is when the baby starts to suck at their hands, or they're turning their heads, or they're, that rooting reflex, it looks like they're hungry. So most of the time that's true that they're hungry, but babies can also root when they just want to suck. So it's not that you necessarily need to know the difference, because keeping the baby frequently and often at the breast is one of the things that you want to do in those early days. Allow the baby to eat as often as the baby wants to eat. If you need to take a break, if you're doing these prolonged feedings where they can go on for a long time, you can also use your finger. You can use a pacifier. For a baby that sucks like that, I typically do not see issues where they get nipple confusion and then won't eat at the breast. Milk is not coming out of that pacifier, so a few days into it, when they're hungry, they're going to want you. So I would say that the baby, like what she had said, the baby's peeing, the baby's pooping, right? The baby's burping, not bringing anything up. Sounds like everything's doing great and her milk's coming in, so let the baby eat.
Yeah. And really quick, make sure you're like sharing this video with your friends. Tag your friends in it who may be nursing moms. Make sure you go like Shari's page. Make sure you're following Evenflo. Just so you can continue to get this information and help get the information out there.
Yeah.
That is the reason we do this.
Yeah.
Like, my Facebook is all fun. I like to Instagram my food. But it's like at the end of the day, I do see it as an educational tool. Infotainment, if you will. So use it.
That's such a great point, and you'll notice that when you watch monthly, we do sometimes repeat a lot of the same
because there's always
things
new people.
Because there's always new people, and we need refreshers, and there's always new moms coming along, and so we talk about a lot of the same basics because when it comes to breastfeeding, those basic things that we're going over make all the difference in the world. And I love reading some of the comments where I've seen some of you guys referring it to your friends and saying, this is my third or my fourth baby, and I learned something new every time I watch.
I mean, that's what's crazy.
And
it's like we have moms
so
on here that are like, I just had my 20th child and I did not know about this. So it's great. It's great, It takes a village.
How many of you guys been watching for a while now? Like, how many of you been watching for the last... We've been doing this almost a year.
Yeah.
Like, right, a year?
It's
been over a year.
We've been doing it for a bit.
And then way back. We didn't even give them our history.
Before Facebook even did this. I met Cherry on Twitter. And I believe it was you and... Was it Earth Mama Angel Baby is how I found you?
Yeah,
Y'all were tweeting
like 2009.
2000 and something.
Yeah, really long time ago.
So I used to go to her store in Jersey. And we would do a live streaming TV show. Or she would, and I would guest in on it a couple times. So she was doing this long before the technology was there to make it easy. Now that Zuckerberg has made a magical device called Facebook Live, and we can just get on and be like blah 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 blah.
If you guys could have seen what we had to put, the production we used to put on,
it was a lot.
We needed people everywhere and computers everywhere just to get it on to a stream for you guys. But you know what? It was always the best way, and it still is, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is great. So here's something interesting that we bring up every now and then. Brianna wants to know, does my baby really need a vitamin D supplement?
Okay, vitamin D. Let's talk about that for a minute because vitamin D is actually a really important fat-soluble vitamin that moms and women, people in general, typically in this country have low levels, and it can impact your short-term health, your long-term health in so many ways. And so many of us just have inadequate levels of vitamin D. There's a whole other conversation that we can have, and I will over on my own page when we talk about it during pregnancy. But that should be part of the prenatal screening at this point, is that somebody should be checking your vitamin D levels because low levels can lead to preeclampsia, preterm labor, things like that. But when we talk about babies and whether they need vitamin D, you need to remember that you can't really get vitamin D through your food. So how do you get vitamin D? There's two ways. There's direct sunlight, okay, that you daily or several days a week of direct sunlight to your skin without sunscreens, okay? And we're talking just hands, face, legs, like it doesn't have to be your whole body. But 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes of being in the sun helps your body to create vitamin D. The only other way to do that is to take supplements. And when you are taking supplements, you have to check your vitamin D levels because you can take too much of it or you cannot take enough. The right level, just so that you guys have a reference when you are getting your blood work checked, is that you should be somewhere over 50. Okay, so when you do the blood work, you want your vitamin D levels over 50. Now, with a newborn, breast formula contains vitamin D. They're already putting extra into the formula. But breast milk, if mom has adequate vitamin D levels, which is why I was bringing up if your levels are good during pregnancy, then the breast milk will have good, adequate vitamin D levels. And that should last the baby through the breast milk. You can also, if you feel that your levels are low, then your baby could need to be supplemented at that point, or some direct sunlight. Again,
I'll tell you, sunlight is crazy.
Not through the windows, though.
I mean, I moved to Denver back in February, and I can tell a huge difference in my mood already.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I'm around the sun all the time. Not just the fact that I get sunburned every day of my life, so I've had to start wearing sunscreen, but it is you know, a very noticeable difference in my mood.
Yes.
Just being near sunlight.
It's one of the most underrated or not looked
Undervalued.
at, undervalued health things that you can do for your health is to make sure that your vitamin D levels are where they need to be. And you cannot get it from your food. And most of your prenatal vitamins are going to contain inadequate amounts like 400 micrograms, which is nothing. We're talking you need thousands to actually get your levels up high enough. So again, do some reading, look at some information. I have some stuff on my website, My Baby Experts. I have a few videos on vitamin D, but I can also give you some resources for it. But check out your own vitamin D levels, and then if your levels are adequate and you're exclusively breastfeeding your baby, the baby should be getting it through the milk.
Fair. Here's something good, and this will actually be a very good time for us to talk about the Evenflo pump really quick. I don't seem to respond to my pump at all. I have an electric pump. I have a manual pump. I will use those and get maybe an ounce while pumping at home or work. I have tried all different flange sizes and different membranes or valves. Mm-hmm. I will be able to manually express streams, but then the pump will pull nothing. Help me, please. My little one is 10 months and I'm running out of frozen milk. Like this week it will be all gone.
And she's using an electric pump? I didn't get that from the beginning.
She's using an electric pump and a manual, and neither one of them are working well for her.
Okay. There's a couple reasons why the pump might not be working, especially if it was working in the beginning. One is that in the beginning, typically you have a lot more milk. So your perception of how much you should be pumping can actually be overestimated. So that in the beginning you might be pumping a lot more, and then you're seeing that that's starting to wean down. That could be because you are feeding your baby and trying to pump. Mm-hmm. So if it's like you fed first and now you're trying to get some extra milk, baby could be eating all the extra milk. You're not engorged anymore. You know, if you can get even an ounce out after a nursing session, that's pretty good. Some people get a lot more than that, but typically I'm pretty impressed if you get an ounce or two at the most after breastfeeding. So that's one thing that could cause the milk supply to look like it's lower than it actually is. Mm-hmm. The other thing could be the pump itself, which means that the flanges are not fitting properly. And we talk about this a lot, about different flange sizes.
It is different for everyone. Mm-hmm. You got to get those different flange sizes. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love so much about the Evenflo Feeding pump that we're giving away tonight, because the pump itself comes with 3 different sizes, mm-hmm. included with the pump itself, and it's in all the models: the basic, the deluxe plus. And the reason for that is because it's not an accessory. It's like it's a necessity. It's not an accessory. It's a necessity.
Or what did we decide to call it? It's not an accessory. It's a necessary.
Necessary. Exactly. It is a necessary. And the reason is because if the flange does not fit, you will not get milk. Mm-hmm. You will not get milk out. It will hurt when you pump, and you will not be able to express your milk. So say you're using a particular size in the beginning, and now a few months goes by, and you're using that same size because it worked before.
It may not work anymore.
It may not be the right size anymore. It can change over time. So as your breasts are changing and the months are going on, you may need to try a different size. That's why having it in the package where you can try them, because you can't measure. It's not like that. Like I'll have moms all the time. They're like,
you don't measure you don't measure the areola.
No.
You're like, this is what works.
No, it's not like
I just said areola on Facebook.
You took your pants off before.
I did take my pants off too. For those of you who missed it earlier, I did take my pants off and show you
what happens if you come late.
So you can rewatch this and be like, oh, there's Jamie in his underwear. That's abrasive.
So where was I? Oh.
Flanges.
Measuring areolas is not like measuring for bras. So you cannot tell from a measurement what size you actually need. You actually need to try them out. And you might need one size on your right and another size on your left. And there's no way to tell. And honestly, it has nothing to do with the size of your breasts. I see moms with extremely large breasts and they need smaller flanges. I see moms with small breasts and they need larger flanges. So it really is about trying them out. That can be difficult if your pump doesn't come with the flange. What are you going to do? Go out and buy every single size? That's why when we were in the process of designing the pump and deciding...
Pull that pump over here.
Let's look at it.
Pull that pump over.
It's such a beautiful pump, too.
Look at that.
Okay, this is the pump. All right. One of the things, the reason that I love this pump, and I'm going to just say it, is because one of the things about this is not that I just endorse it or recommend it or came in and said, oh yeah, this is a great pump, let me just tell people to buy it.
She helped them develop it.
Yeah, I helped to design the pump, and it came in several years ago when Evenflo Feeding was deciding to create this amazing double electric pump that moms could go back to work, that would be accessible to most moms because of the price point and just the accessibility of it. And I helped them to design it with features that, from all the years of working with moms, what are the things that it has to have plus more? So, like, there are certain things basic things that it needs to have, and then let's put in the extras that would just be so nice. Like if we could design something from scratch. So we did that. And
it's like, when you go you get a muffin, you go to a bakery and you get a muffin and you're like, that muffin is awesome. Yeah. But then you get a cupcake, and that's just a muffin with icing, and that's great. This is like a cupcake.
This is the icing.
It's a cupcake.
It's a cupcake.
Somehow made.
I love that.
I don't know how I made that work, but I did.
That was awesome. And you are going to love the icing on this one because it really does. All the icing on this one is about comfort. It's about convenience. It's about making it easier for you. And then my classes, I have 2 breastfeeding classes. They come included with the pump. Full classes, not just talking about short YouTube videos.
Yeah, it's not like a bullet point thing.
It's not like that.
You get 2 full classes.
Right.
That are her information with the pump when you buy it.
Yeah. Exactly. It's one on breastfeeding, one on pumping, and every model of the pump comes with the class. Are you okay, honey?
I'm just going to move the ice a little bit. It's on my direct skin, and quite frankly, I know you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, you need
but
a
it
towel.
Feels good.
Yeah. So let's go over while we have the pump out, you want to go over the features a little bit?
Let's go for it.
Yeah, and then we'll go back to questions. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the features of this pump, because not only is it about learning about this pump, but it's learning about breast pumps in general.
Yep.
Okay, so this is about...
They're like the big three.
The big three.
The big three
and
with pumps.
When I first started and I was working with them to design the pump, I had to think to myself, what are the if I had to break it down, what are the 3 most important features on a breast pump that I would look for? Because there's so many things. You got a bag, you got coolers, you got this, you got that. But if you had to have it, what were those 3 most important things? These are them. The 3 things that have to happen, which we just talked about, is you need multiple flanges, okay? Now, so this pump comes with 3 different sizes. These 3 different sizes are going to fit probably 90% of moms out there, okay? And they come with the pump. They're soft silicone flanges.
Look at that squishy silicone.
Super comfortable.
Where am I? Look at that squishy silicone flange. Isn't that nice and soft?
That's really, really comfortable. And, this is just, you're going to be able to try them out. And while we're on that subject for 1 second, remember I just said 90% of moms are going to fit into these 3 different sizes. What about the other 10%?
What about the other 10%?
What about the 10%? Okay, because some moms are going to need something a little bit larger. Evenflo Feeding just came out with the larger sizes. Okay, so now we have the 2 larger sizes above that you can buy separately. Again, most moms are going to fit into what comes with the pump, but if you find that the 3 that are here are still too small, we do sell the accessory kit. So
look at that! Look at that! Look at that!
So this is great.
But why would a breast pump company come out with that? Is it because they're actually run by women?
You think? Breastfeeding moms who are designing breast pumps?
Oh.
What a novel concept.
Oh. Back to the pump.
Okay, so multiple flange sizes included with the pump. That's the number 1 thing. And we do that even in the basic, okay? Second thing, independent speed and suction dials on the pump, okay? Where you control the speed and you control the suction yourself. Why do you do that? Because you want to be able to simulate your letdowns the way your baby would be sucking at the breast, or as closely to the way that the baby would be sucking at the breast. Pushing a button, letting the pump do it for you is not going to work for most moms. And when you first start getting your milk to come down or let down, that can happen multiple times during one sitting, but it can't happen unless you have that control over the suction and the speed yourself. So that would be a second feature that I would be looking for. And remember, this, Jamie mentioned before that I had a retail store. I don't anymore, but I had a retail store for 12 years. I wasn't involved with any pump companies at the time. I was a nurse midwife. I was a lactation consultant. I was teaching classes and doing consultations. And then my customers would come in and we would stand in front of the pumps and they would say to me, what do I look for in a breast pump? And this was my whole explanation right now.
Yeah.
Exactly what I'm doing. And I'd be like this, this, and this. And none of them actually have all of it. But if I had to design one, that's what it would look like.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm going over with you. The speed and suction. And then the last thing, third most important thing, and this is something that just floors me every time we do this, that people still don't understand and know to look for this in their pump.
Open versus closed systems.
Okay.
I bring it up every speaking event I do, Gearapalooza, Nordstrom, whatever. When I talk about breast pumps, I'm always like, show of hands if you know the difference between open versus closed.
Definitely.
Luckily, the tide is kind of turning, and I don't know if it's because we talk about it a lot on here and people pay attention, but people are starting to learn that there's a huge difference in breast pumps, especially open versus closed systems.
It's actually, I put it last on my 3 things to talk about right now, but it's usually the first thing I look for. So it's actually the number one, the first thing I look at when I'm deciding on a pump, then I move on to the other features. So it's probably the first thing to talk about. An open system versus a closed system, what we're talking about here is there a barrier between your milk, which is flowing into this flange and down into the bottle, and the tubing, okay, that is being sucked towards the pump, okay? Because what's going to happen is if there's no barrier, and this is the little barrier here, if there's no barrier, milk is inevitably going to suck or splash into this tubing, and that could get right back into your motor as well. But it can grow mold and bacteria and viruses within the tube. It's really hard to clean this thing out. How many of you have used an open system and you get moisture or milk inside the tube?
And how many of you don't know you have to open your pumps up and clean them and they get full of mold?
How many of you know that you can't actually open them? That's the problem. You cannot see what's actually growing inside these motors.
Same with a lot of sippy cups. You got to be careful with the sippy cup
exactly.
too.
So with a closed system, and that's why when Evenflo Feeding was first designing the pump, I think the very first question I asked was, is it a closed system? And it did. It was, is it closed? Yeah, absolutely, it's closed. So that's a little diaphragm. That sits there. This is on a vacuum system, so there is a complete seal and barrier. Nothing's going to get into your tube. Once you're done pumping, you take this off. You wash your parts. You never wash the tube. You don't want to get water in it.
Let's talk about part cleaning while we're discussing this. Sherry, let's say you're a mom pumping at work, living your life. You know, and I think a lot of moms get freaked out about pumping at work because they're like, I'm going to have all these like phalanges and shields and all this crap I'm going to have to wash at work all the time. What's up with that?
How do you do it? What's a good way to do it?
Or how often should you do it?
You know, the way that it works, let's put it this way, it has to do with storage of milk. So milk can be stored in a cooler for up to 12 hours with frozen ice packs. And so that will get you through the day. You don't need a refrigerator at work. As long as you have ice packs in a freezer, like in a cooler, you can put your milk that you pumped in there. What I usually recommend people to do is when they pump, so you go ahead, you pump, and typically you don't have a lot of time either, so washing your parts, taking them into the kitchen or the bathroom, whatever. What you want to do is just pump into your bottle, and then take your flange and all your parts that have milk on them, put them in a little baggie, and stick them inside the cooler. Because if they're staying cold, then you could just use them again for the next feeding and the next pumping session. So you can use them throughout the day. Keep the milk cold. It's still good what's on there. It might dry, but it's going to be fine. And then when you go home, you take them home, you wash them with some hot soapy water into the dishwasher, all ready for the next day. Or you could just air dry them too. Or
look at that. So that's a pretty good little...
Absolutely.
Boom, that's the pump. And 5 of you are going to win one tonight. So that's exciting.
Yay!
Everybody needs to win a pump. People need pumps.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to questions now. This is actually good. We've never even talked about something like this.
Okay. Something we haven't talked about?
I'm going to give something new to Sherry here. About to have a baby and not sure what I should bring to the hospital with me this time in regards to nipple shield, shells for flat nipples, my pump, etc. We struggled a lot with my son due to flat nipples. Not sure if that's something that has adjusted since he nursed for 2 years, weaned a year ago, or if I need to prepare to deal with it again.
Good question. And typically what I would recommend is to try not to compare it to the last time. There's lots of reasons why the baby might not have latched or the nipples were flat the first time. Sometimes, and this is good to know, sometimes a lot of IV fluid during labor. If you've been in labor for a long time, if you've had a lot of IV fluid, that could really cause sort of swelling and a flatness of the nipple as well, and a difficulty in latch. So this is something that a lot of people don't realize, is that, you could be first baby, it could be 2 days, an induction, a C-section, lots of IV fluids, and that could cause that flat nipple issue that she's talking about, where she's saying, oh, it resolved. My nipples aren't flat anymore. Did that just happen? Typically, it can be just from the, you'll see all the swelling that you'll get in your feet sometimes after delivery. I mean, a lot of that has to do with of the fluids that you've received. So if you've had a lot of IV fluids, it's something to keep an eye on. If you're really at the point where you think you need a nipple shield, I wouldn't go ahead and do that on your own in the hospital. It's not usually something that I recommend, because the first couple days, especially when it's just colostrum, it's really hard to pull colostrum through the shield. So the baby will wind up sucking just on the shield and not really getting colostrum. I personally, if the baby cannot actually latch, what I usually have my moms do is, hand express colostrum onto a spoon and then pour it into the baby's mouth and allow the baby to just get a little bit of colostrum every couple hours that way, versus using a shield where the baby might not be getting much of anything. Are you leaking here?
I'm sorry, this is so loud. I'm
leaking.
I'm leaking a little bit.
Get a towel.
Joe.
Or that plastic bag right there. Sorry.
I gotta get.
Okay.
I gotta get a towel or something. Or another bag. Here's another bag. We're fine.
No, get a towel for him.
We're fine. Don't worry about it. Totally fine.
Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is, she asked, should she bring her pump to the hospital?
I would hold real quick. I would just like to say, in case the signal cuts out, my sister needs to calm down texting me right now. She should know I'm doing this, and I'm getting all these text messages from my sister. So Jennifer,
stop it.
Stop texting me. I'm working.
I was doing.
Love you, mean it.
I was doing Facebook Live the other day, and my mother kept calling and cutting off my.
Calling cuts it right
I was like, "Are you kidding?" My mother called 3 times, and she doesn't give up. My mom, once she's on it, she's like, "That's it. I'm gonna keep calling you." She kept cutting off my stream.
Awful.
I'm like,
it's
"Oh,
awful.
she'll call
if,
you right now."
If I was on Wi-Fi, I would turn my phone on airplane mode, because I do that every time I broadcast. Yeah. Because it just uses Wi-Fi.
I was going to ask you, what do I do?
But I'm just on phone signal right now.
You can't.
So.
Nobody call him.
Don't call me.
We'll get bumped.
Stop texting me.
They're tuning in to you over Bachelorette.
Oh.
People are watching us instead of the Bachelorette. That's like getting a rose in itself. Thank you for that.
We are way more entertaining.
Oh, that's just great. And we don't get drunk and cry. We don't get drunk and cry. That's lit for later tonight.
And we give out breast pumps, it's not roses.
It's what I always say when we talk about multiple letdowns. There are 2 places multiple letdowns matter: breast pumps and OkCupid. I have multiple letdowns on OkCupid all the time. So there we go. So about taking a pump to the hospital.
Don't take your pump to the hospital. You don't need to. It's so rare that you'll need to pump in the hospital, and if you do, if your baby was in a NICU, then you're really going to want to use a hospital grade pump if your baby is born prematurely. But the truth is that you won't need your pump for normal use in the hospital, but you might need it as soon as you get home. I wouldn't take it with you. I'd leave it at home.
Fair.
What I would take. Here's the things I would take. How about we talked about what not to take?
What should you take to the hospital,
So when it comes to breastfeeding, one thing, first of all, is you want to before you actually get to the hospital, you want to watch or take a breastfeeding class. If you haven't taken a breastfeeding class and you think you're just going to show up and it's just going to happen on its own, and the nurse there, whoever happens to be on that shift that day, is going to give you the instructions and it's all going to be fine. That's a small percentage of the population that puts their baby on and everything's okay.
It is a natural. It is natural, but it is a learned trait, habit.
It's a learned skill. Yep. It is something that you do need help with. You need and consistent help, where somebody's not going to give you 50 different answers, and that's going to just confuse you. So I recommend, if you haven't taken a class, There's a really good one available to you right now that you could go take. And if you're enjoying what you're hearing tonight, you could go watch me. My breastfeeding class is literally me standing there doing this.
Yep.
10 chapters that will prepare you for that hospital, and the first 6 weeks, so that you're really going to have some really good knowledge. And if there's anybody out there who's watching right now who's either taken one of my live classes or watched my class on because they bought the pump or they went to my website and purchased the class, let people know what you thought of it, because I've worked with a lot of moms. So that's number one. You take that class beforehand, and you do it with your partner, because you need that support and they need to know what they're doing as well.
You're going to be tired and forget stuff. Your partner will remember things you do not.
Exactly.
They get a different eye, like a bird's eye view of the nursing process.
Yep.
You're seeing this, they see it from a different angle. Maybe you need to do this and this.
Totally.
Open,
And I make it really simple too, so that your partner could really be your consultant. Where it's like, it literally comes down to position of the baby's head. Look, I got my own baby here.
I didn't bring Angry Baby tonight because Angry Baby isn't into the woods.
Angry Baby did such a good job.
And he did such a good job last night. I was so proud of him.
He was so good.
He's the baby in Act 2.
He was the baby. So this is actually the baby I use in my class. This is a very
It's got a really scary head of hair though. It really bothers me. It really absolutely not.
Dwight wears a hat.
Put it in the window.
So, things like just simple things, like you're latching your baby, okay?
Let's say I'm like, I'm nursing.
You're latching your baby, and your partner's looking over your shoulder and saying, actually, the head needs to be
the head
angled
needs to be
just a little bit more.
Oh, look at that. Isn't that elegant?
That might be a view that you can't see, but your partner can look down and see the difference in how you're actually latching.
That is a quality latch right there.
That is a good latch.
That's a great latch.
You're a natural. You are a natural. So that's something. The other thing to think about bringing is your nipple cream. And somebody asked about that.
They're like, why do you not like lanolin? Why do you not like lanolin?
Yeah, we don't like lanolin.
We don't like lanolin.
Okay, so you'll see that almost all these nipple creams that they give out at the hospital have lanolin in them. Lanolin comes from the skin off the sheep.
It's like the sweat and oil that the sheep excretes into the wool.
And so it can have toxins in it, and people who are allergic to wool can actually be reactive to lanolin. It's just something that you really don't want to put on your nipple,
or
and then put it in your baby's mouth.
If your baby pops out and they're like, "Yo, mom, I'm vegan."
Yeah. So lanolin, and not to mention the fact that it's really thick and sticky. If you've ever tried to smear lanolin on a sore nipple, you would know that it doesn't go on easily, and it hurts. So it doesn't have a lot of healing properties to it either, so it's not going to really heal the nipple. What we like, usually we recommend
stuff with calendula,
organic ingredients, things, herbal nipple creams like Earth Mama,
Angel Baby, Mother Love,
nipple butter.
Great stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, and those things just work so great, and it's stuff that I would want to put in my baby's mouth. So bring your own nipple cream. It's good to put it on. You can also just put breast milk onto your nipple as well. But that nipple cream is awesome. You're gonna love it. And
it's also really good for lip chapstick.
It works.
When you get dehydrated
for so many things
and you're dry. It's so good for this.
If you have a breastfeeding pillow, and in my class I do talk about positioning with a pillow. So I bring the pillow with me.
Oh, sure.
Okay, to the hospital, and nursing bras.
Yep.
Something that you'll be able to open easily, something that you'll be able to even wear in labor, that is comfortable and that will open completely. I personally, there's a particular bra that I really like. Bravado Designs makes a bra that opens fully and has a band, so there's no hooks in the back. It's their original bra, and it's the one that I really do like to recommend for labor or for those early weeks where you're sleeping in it and wearing it during the day, because it has the support, but it's not like you're squeezing your breast through a little hole. And we talked about we're gonna do a
bra fitting video,
because
that will be exciting for me, won't it?
Okay, because that was something that so many of you guys need help with, and I spent years in that bra fitting closet in my store. I can fit a mean bra. I can fit a
I'm
mean
sure you
bra.
can. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, so we will be doing some of that. And you know what we could even do? If anybody wants a fitting, I do them remotely. So if we wanted anybody to, like, have their fitting done live, we'll talk about it. But
if you're feeling about it, if you're feeling up to it.
Mm-hmm. I don't need your head. You want to hear a really funny story? Okay, so one of my friends who I had not met, we just kind of knew each other from talking on the phone and online, and we were communicating. She was pregnant, and so I was helping her with some stuff. And I had never met her in person, and I was helping her with her registry and blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And she's like, "I really need bras." And she was in Arizona, in Phoenix. I'm in New Jersey. She's like, "Can you help me with my?" I'm like, "Yeah. All I need is for you to send me pictures of yourself. Okay, no head." Just put your bra on that you're wearing and take a picture from the front, the side, and the back without your head and send them to me and a couple questions that I needed her to answer. Uh-huh. And I will tell you what size you need and what bras to buy and which size. And she's like, "You're got to be kidding me." I'm like, "No, I can do that." So she sends me all the pictures of herself, right? And and then we get her all her bras. And after she has her baby, Joe and I go out to see her and her husband, and we're going to go stay with them.
Is this the one with the twins?
No, that was different. That was different friend.
Wow.
But this one was in Arizona, and so we went to see her. We're literally walking up the driveway. Remember, Joe? Walking up the driveway, and he's like, "Have you ever seen her before?" And I was like, "Not her face." I realized that I had never seen her face. I had seen her breast, but I had never seen her face before. So when she opened the door, we were laughing hysterically. I don't even know. Just
well, there we go.
Story.
So we've been talking about bras. Here we go.
Hi, Laura.
This is good. Angela has a good question. 3 questions. We'll do them piece by piece. Mm-hmm. 1, how long does pumping usually take?
Pumping should not take an extremely long amount of time. If you have the independent speed and suction controls on your dial, what you could do is stimulate those multiple letdowns anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. It should be really longer than that.
Okay.
You know, sometimes it could take a little bit longer for some moms, but 20 minutes is typically a reasonable amount of time to get the milk out. And let's talk, while we're talking about that, can we talk about what are normal amounts of milk?
Yes.
Because this is really important.
And then we're going to come back to your questions, Angela. Don't worry.
Sorry, did I cut off?
No, you're fine, you're fine.
Excellent.
Just.
All right, so let's talk a little bit because she's bringing up a question, how long does it take to pump? But then how much milk
people don't know how
do you
much
actually
they're
want to get out?
Supposed to be getting out.
Exactly. You know, and that's huge because if you think that you're supposed to be pumping a lot more or you're supposed to be producing a lot more, then you could be thinking they're not making enough when actually making perfect amounts. So let's talk about normal amounts of milk, starting with day 1.
Okay.
Okay, let's just talk about that. We have some props.
We have props.
We love our props.
They brought them in the car to Hudson, New York.
We did.
And as we sit here on the floor in the seating area of a bed and breakfast, we're going to play with bottles full of milk we got at a coffee shop.
Exactly. We did. Okay. So, see this little marble ball here?
Marble.
Okay.
This little guy.
That little marble is the size of your baby's belly on day 1. Okay. So, baby comes out, and this is how small their belly is. You cannot stretch it bigger than that. So if they're being fed with a bottle or supplemented with formula and then they're vomiting everywhere, it's because they cannot handle more milk than that. Why is it that small? Because this is how much milk your breasts are actually making, okay? And that's even a little bit more than, that's even a lot. That's even a lot.
That's nowhere close to even a quarter of an ounce. Really.
Okay, yeah, it's like a teaspoon. And we're talking about colostrum, which is that first milk. That's really not about volume. It's not about hydrating the baby. The baby's coming out hydrated enough.
You know what? A side note, I'm going off on a tangent really quick. We talked about things to take to the hospital. Take some olive oil or some coconut oil with you, and when that baby comes out, smear it on their butt because it will help you get that tar off their butt the first few poops. Mm-hmm. Get them good and slick, get them good and moisturized, get it good, clean off that meconium.
Mm-hmm. But don't use a cloth diaper when you do that.
No. Here we go.
Okay, so
just a little tangent.
But it is a good point.
Uh-huh.
It works good. So that's day 1, and it's really, really tiny amounts. And this is where I think just this one visual right here can change your perception forever about what is supposed to happen on that first day and how long should they be staying on the breast. How long do you think it takes for a baby to swallow that amount? A few minutes? I mean, could you express that onto a spoon, pour it in the baby's mouth? Yes, that's what that is. It's colostrum. Okay, so that's day 1. This is day 3.
It's like a beer pong. Beer pong.
Beer pong. Okay, so day 3 is about a half an ounce. Okay, again, that's the entire feeding. Who's surprised by this? I mean, come on. Most people think they're supposed to be eating like 2 ounces. This is what they're eating. You're not seeing it because the baby's at the breast, so you're not seeing what's actually coming out. You're not supposed to be pumping it. You're not supposed to be seeing it. That's what the baby's actually eating, a half an ounce, okay? Because babies don't need to eat much on those first few days. Your body only produces this amount, and it's not just you. It's everyone. That means that nature didn't get this wrong. If your baby needed to eat more, you'd be making more. But there's a reason. It goes hand in hand. Your baby's not supposed to eat a lot those first few daes after the birth. They're supposed to pee a lot. Get rid of all those extra fluids that they got in utero.
These sizes are per feeding.
Per feeding?
Yes.
Yes. Per feeding.
Very surprised, audience.
Yes.
Surprised? This is why we go over the basics every single time, because we could get into all kinds of unique things and talk about this and this nuance and that nuance of breastfeeding.
We get a few hundred new moms every time on here. So it's like, start at the bottom, start with a good base.
And this is the kind of stuff, when I sit in my class and when I'm teaching my class in my video, this is the kind of stuff I'm going over. These basic things, so that when you walk into a hospital and somebody's saying to you, baby's not eating enough, you say, you know, I know. Baby's not really supposed to eat that much. How much is my baby peeing? My baby's peeing? That means my baby's hydrated. Yep. Okay, that's how you know. You're not
They got that pee, they got that poop, they got those diapers.
Exactly.
Are their clothes still fitting? You know, a friend of mine, you know, randomly, car seat lady, she was a nurse at the NICU. And one of the things she always looked at with NICU babies is to tell if they're, you know, staying fed. Are their clothes getting bigger on them? That's when you really start to notice, like, oh, they're not getting weight, they're losing weight. Their clothes are getting big.
Exactly. Not how long are they sitting at the breast.
Nope.
Baby can sit at the breast and suck for an hour. It tells me nothing about how much that baby ate. It means that the baby sat at the breast for an hour. Baby could get all the milk they need in the first 10 minutes and then just be sucking the rest of the time. So the length of time at the breast means nothing. You're looking at those wet diapers, you're looking at poop, you're looking for weight gain, you're looking for other signs, and not the length of time. So when they tell you in the hospital, you need to do 20 minutes on each side. And I don't know if this is still, I mean, I hear from some moms, I guess it depends on the hospital you deliver at, but I'll hear all the time, well, they're trying to quantify it because nurses need to write. I was a nurse, I'll tell you right now, you need to write something. So they want to know, how long did you nurse on each side? That's meaningless.
Yeah.
It's really meaningless. So, you know, doing 20 minutes on each side, what does that tell you?
Are you hearing those swallows?
Exactly.
Listen for those swallows.
Exactly. Let's move on. Day 10.
Day 10, you got your egg, just like when you go to Casa Bonita and you go in that chicken machine and you turn that crank and you get a little toy in here. A little egg.
Day 10, we're talking about 1.5 ounces per feeding. Per feeding, okay? So when you're asking me about how much should I be pumping, okay, if you're not getting 4 or 5 ounces out, it's not necessary. This is the entire feeding, okay, on day 10. This is how much your baby's actually eating. Now, will you get 4 or 5 ounces out? Probably, because your body is going to overproduce and make more than you actually need, especially in those early days. Once your milk comes in, you're making a lot more than the baby actually needs to eat. And I know that was a question that came up about switching sides and eating on one side over the other. Your baby could probably eat completely on one side, and that's all they'll need, and then what you do is just switch to the other side for the next feeding. That'll actually help your breast to kind of equal out, and it'll help the baby to get more of the hind milk, which is the fat, that really only matters when your breasts are full, really, really full. So this is day 10, okay? And then if we move on here to, like, beyond that, what an actual full feeding looks like.
4 ounces.
Yeah, 3 to 4 ounces is a typical feeding for a breastfed baby. By the time they're around, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 weeks old, this is what they're eating. And here's the part that can be very surprising. It never increases from there the entire year. Okay, so they're eating around 4 ounces for every feeding for the whole year. You're not going into those like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ounce bottles.
Breastfed babies versus formula-fed babies need very different volumes. Because this 4 ounces is great. The content in here, when it comes from you, changes throughout over time. So nutrients, etc., blah, 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 this all changes. 4 ounces is all you really need. And especially like, you know, we normally talk about like when they start going into solids, etc. Like, are they still going to drink as much? You know, blah, blah, blah. It's
now sometimes babies will eat a little bit more. This is not like a strict rule that it's only 4 ounces. Some babies eat 5 ounces. Some babies eat 3 ounces. Will you ever really know? No. If you're feeding at the breast, you're not going to really know. But for pumping moms, they do kind of want to know, how much should my baby be eating? And somewhere between 3 and 4 ounces is what a really, I would say, is a good amount. And a little more frequently if the baby seems hungry. I like to, for breastfed babies, you know, I like them to eat somewhere, you know, between 2 to 3 hours during the day and 3 to 4 hours at night. That's a good amount or frequency to be eating. If they're sleeping really, really long stretches, you may be overfeeding them with the bottle. And what I would do is start to cut back a little bit on how much they're eating per feeding and do more frequent feeding, which would be more typical of what they would do at the breast. It's really easy to put a bottle in a baby's mouth and then it just pours down. They're sleeping. They would have stopped if they were at the breast, but because the bottle's in their mouth and it's pouring, they're swallowing and they're overeating. You know, studies show that you know, when we overfeed babies with bottles.
Some woman I just saw, she said, "You just made me feel amazing."
Oh, that's the point. Good. You should feel amazing. You should feel amazing. You know, too many times, especially with like the internet, you know, I noticed this. I mean, I've been doing this way before the internet. And so with the internet and you're reading people's comments and like people will talk about, I pump, you know, 40, 50 ounces a day and I donate it, which is so amazing. People who are able to pump extra and donate their milk, or they've got extra freezer stash. But then other moms will compare themselves to that and say, what's wrong with me that I can't do that?
You do you.
All you need to do is to make enough to feed your baby. And that's it, period. And hopefully this information of looking at these bottles, you know, looking at these quantities is making you feel amazing, because it's making you know that you're enough and you're adequate and there's nothing wrong.
And if you are able to pump and donate and don't deal with,
shot right there.
You know, oversupply and mastitis and engorgement and all of that, and you're able to donate that milk, go for it. There are lots of babies that need it.
They need it.
Get it done. Donate, donate, donate.
Yep.
But if you are pumping so much to donate and it is causing you issues, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, number one reason for mastitis is oversupply.
We actually joke in Into the Woods that Milky White has mastitis. Why? Because I can make jokes about that, and no one in the cast understands it. Everybody's like, "What's mastitis?" And I'm like, "Boob flu." It's not pleasant.
No.
We actually have a girl in the company right now who's pregnant, and it makes me very excited. Aww. So it's very fun chatting with her about this stuff. So
that's great.
Yeah.
You want to go back to questions?
Yeah, let's go back to questions. A lot of people are asking me where my wine is tonight. Normally when I do these, I go stay at Cherry's house. We drink wine. I hang out. I sleep there.
Exactly.
And then I go home to New York, or I get on a plane.
We drink responsibly.
I have to drive home tonight.
Yeah.
So don't drink and drive, kids.
Yeah.
It's not cool. I love a good cocktail, but you have to be responsible. All right.
We got our iced coffee.
So Angela has 2 more questions. 2, are workplaces required to let you pump at work?
Yeah, it depends on yes. The answer is yes, but it also depends on the size of the company too. So you really need to look at your state laws, and if the company has over 50 employees, they need to give you a time to pump. They need to give you an adequate space to pump, not a bathroom, somewhere where it's private and not within, you know, like in the middle of everything. So, and what the main thing is that I would find out the laws that protect you, because there really are laws in place to protect you while you're working. But then also don't spring it on them the day you come back. Like, call your supervisor, call your boss, let them know what your plans are so that when you do come into work, everything's kind of set up. You want to set yourself up for success. So you want to.
Oh, that's like a clock.
Is that what that is?
That's a clock going off. It's chiming 10. Isn't that charming as hell? This bed and breakfast is so cute. I'm actually going to link to it under this video.
So cute. We found
it's
the cutest
stinking
place,
adorable.
Right?
Hudson is winning.
We're having so much fun.
So yeah, that was good. Good answer for that.
Yep.
And then someone else said, how long, Angela's third question, how long is it recommended that you breastfeed your child? And I'm going to answer this shiz. You breastfeed as long as you want. The World Health Organization, everyone recommends breastfeeding for at least a year, etc. But when I went through all my classes, the IBCLCs I worked with said, you breastfeed as long as it is mutually agreeable between mother and child. As long as you're fine with it and baby's fine with it, keep it going. Live your life.
Any amount of breastfeeding is going to be helpful to your baby. And I've had so many moms who decide they don't really want to breastfeed, but when I've talked to them and they're like, well, what about just some colostrum in the hospital? They're like, you know what? I could do that. I don't want to latch, don't want to breastfeed, but I can express some colostrum in the hospital on a spoon and give that to my baby. Even that will make a difference. A lot of people talk about, I have to go back to work in 6 weeks. What's the point? Huge point, because even that 6 weeks is going to make a huge difference. When we look at the recommendations, which I think is what she might be asking too, the recommendations are, here's the ideal recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics. What they recommend is exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months. That means no food, water, or formula for the first 6 months, just breast milk, whether it's from the breast or pumped. And then continued breastfeeding for a minimum of 1 year with the introduction of solid foods in that second half of the year. That's the American Academy of Pediatrics. The World Health Organization actually recommends 2 years.
Oh.
So what we're talking about is what are the recommendations for the rest of the world, and it's 2 years, and that's what we see in a lot of other places, and also here now too, which I love so much because you do this long enough. I've been doing this 25 years, and I've been an IBCLC for 10 of those 25. Before that, I was a midwife, so I was delivering babies and involved in seeing moms, through their breastfeeding experience, but specifically the last 10 years, the difference that I see in the length of time that moms are choosing to breastfeed or stay with it, whether it's exclusive breastfeeding or combination feeding where they're doing some formula but they're continuing to give breast milk, they're tandem feeding, meaning that they're feeding during pregnancy and then continuing on with newborn and toddler. So much more of that than I ever saw before, and I just love it because I think it's all the information and the support that moms are getting online to say, oh, I can continue to do this. Other moms are doing this. I can do this too. And so I think this is one of the benefits that we've seen from the internet is that you're not so isolated and you're not just getting your information possibly just from a pediatrician who's saying it's time to be done.
Pediatricians normally are not trained at all
in
breastfeeding.
Most are not.
So it's very important to find an IBCLC, and just like in every profession, not everyone is wired the same. So just like with your healthcare provider, just like with anyone, you have to find someone you jive with.
Can I tell you how many of my patients are pediatricians? Lots of pediatrician moms who have their first baby, neonatologists, perinatologists, obstetricians who have their first baby and then say, I don't know anything. I can't believe I don't know this. And they come to see me and I work with them and I tell them, look, we didn't learn this in school. And I can tell you the same thing. I went to nursing school. I went to one of the best nursing schools in the country, in Temple, in Philly. And I learned almost nothing about breastfeeding in all 4 years of nursing school. And if you're a nurse out there, you probably will agree with that if you're a nurse. That we don't really get that education, and then we get put out onto those labor and delivery floors, and we're the ones supposed to be teaching people how to breastfeed when we may have never breastfed a child and we didn't get that much education. And even as a midwife, I'm delivering babies and I had not that much information or education about breastfeeding. I knew how to write your prescription if you had a mastitis or how to do a breast exam, but to teach you proper latch or, how much milk does a baby eat?
I had no idea at all. When I went to these breastfeeding classes at the birth education center I worked at, I think that the information in that class actually floored me more than going through childbirth classes. Oh, yeah. Because you understand childbirth and what's going on to a degree.
Yeah.
But when you go into a breastfeeding class and it's like, this is how big their stomachs are, and this is what everything is doing, and it's breastfeeding, not nipple feeding. Like, I always assumed a baby just kind of sucks at the nipple. No, that's very little. The nipple goes way back in there, and they got to get tissue in their mouth to really get that going.
Definitely.
And a lot of people don't understand that. And then, you know, it's one thing, again, I always talk about at my events. It's like you go into these stores and you see these walls of nipples, and it's like stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're like, oh, at 3 months I need to go up, and at 6 months I need to go up. Your nipple flow does not change throughout your nursing. The contents change, the flow does not. So if you start to alter everything, sometimes that can cause issues.
Definitely.
So
definitely. You know, I was thinking this week it's World Breastfeeding Week, and I'm going to be doing a lot of live Q&As and doing some more. You know, if you
go follow her page.
Yeah, follow my page this week, because I'm going to be doing a bunch of giveaways. Actually, this whole month we're going to be doing a weekly giveaway. So if you don't win the pump, there's 5 chances tonight. I'm going to be doing one a week for the next month. A lot of the questions that you leave on Jamie's page, I'll try to answer a lot of them this month. Do some live stuff, and Joe's going to set up a coupon code for my classes, because I want to do some kind of a discount for you guys to be able to take either my breastfeeding or my pumping class this month. As we're talking about it, I'm thinking to myself, God, this is probably one of the most important things that I can give to you. And so we will set up a coupon code starting tomorrow for anybody who wants to watch either of the classes or gift it to somebody that you know. And
I'll repost that code and everything here.
Yep.
So y'all will see it.
Yep.
The link for Sherry's page is in the caption.
Yeah, Sherry
for the
Creaso.
video. So when you are done, when we are done with this video, we have like another half hour. Just go like her page. It's all linked. I link to everything. There's a lot of talk about water on here. Drink to thirst. Overhydration can be a problem.
Yeah.
More water doesn't mean more milk at all.
And you hear that a lot. People are like, drink a lot of water so you make more milk. Like Jamie just said, it can actually have the opposite effect. You don't want to get dehydrated, because that could decrease your supply. But overhydration can also decrease your supply. So guzzling water when you're not thirsty, or too much water, does not have a positive impact on your body or your milk supply. The good news is that you're extremely thirsty when you're nursing. So typically you fill a glass of water and you sit down to nurse, have that next to you, and drink a glass of water when you're nursing. That's probably going to be a good gauge of how much to drink.
I have to sneeze and it's stuck in my face. So it's very bad. It is stuck right here. I apologize. Amanda has a question. Can you guys give me advice on weaning off breast milk to regular milk? Breast milk is warm, regular milk is cold. How do you mix it? Do you start switching? How do you do that? No one said your baby needs regular milk.
That's the right answer.
We have had many a discussion,
so
and we may not have to get into it tonight.
We don't, but
no one on this planet said your baby needs cow milk.
I have a whole... So remember earlier we were talking about, I used to do this web TV show for years. If you go to my website, I have an entire episode. You want to hear an hour and a half with pediatrician talking about the fact that you don't need to drink cow's milk. I have a whole hour and a half talking about the issues with cow's milk, why you don't need it, why nobody needs to be drinking cow's milk, including your baby. And I leave it at that. We're not big advocates of cow's milk.
And let me tell you, I love some half and half in my coffee, but I try to get off of it. Use almond milk or coconut milk.
Yeah.
I love ice cream. But I notice what it does. I have that dairy, and I get phlegmy. And sometimes it does horrible things to the bowels, but it's always phlegm, and it's always awful.
It's very inflammatory. You don't need it, and I would say that you don't need to wean your baby onto cow's milk.
No.
But you can go to if you go to sherrycreaso.com or to mybabyexperts.com, that's where my whole video library is. It's also on my YouTube channel. You could post mybabyexperts.com. Just look up at the video library index, and you'll see 82 episodes, and they're broken down. There's about 700 videos.
I had half and half in my coffee before we started talking, and I feel it. She's a mess. She is a mess. Let's see some more questions here.
Jamie, this is really comfortable sitting on the floor.
Sitting on the floor is just absolutely nailing it right now.
I think we found
and you know what? I'm going to treat you all to another glance. I'm getting a lot of comments. What's wrong with your legs? It looks like you're in pain. What is this bag of ice? I fell off the stage during a performance yesterday.
Cue up the striptease music.
So I'm going to take my pants off and show you what it did to me. But I'm going to cover what you don't need to look at. So hold on, I'm going to try to get off the floor. Oh, that's rough.
He's taking off his pants.
The pants come off. Oh, that is just horrifying.
He's really taking off his pants.
Good God. Guys. Look at that.
Joe's got the music.
Look at that bruise. Look at that bruise. Bounce, 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 bounce. It's like Magic Mike gone horribly wrong in here. That is legit. This is called when you fall off the stage doing a musical. Okay, I'm putting on my pants. Thank you for that music, Joe. That's good. Somebody's going to make a gif out of that, and that's going to be a damn mess. Yeah, that's why I have ice.
That was so good. The music made that.
It's very color. I mean, the show absolutely went on. I had a fast change. I fell off the stage, hit my leg, hit my head on the floor just like this, bounced up, and I was like, I'm good. Ran off stage. A mom who follows me here on Facebook was actually in the show that day. She was in the audience watching. I ran off. I changed my clothes, and I came back on. The show went on. If Carol Channing can get through it, so can I. Come on now. Come on now.
You are a pro.
So that's the reality I'm dealing with right now.
Oh God.
This is my reality.
Thank God he didn't crack his head open.
Oh my God,
yeah,
right.
You're lucky.
Ooh, I'm very lucky.
You're very lucky. We are lucky. Can I show one more thing?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay. We were talking about storage.
Oh, yeah.
Here's something good, because I think this is going to come as part of the packages.
And trust me, I'm popping arnica. I'm actually going to take some arnica right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a lot of you guys were talking about storage and pumping and freezing and all these other things, right? So this is one of the Evenflo Feeding freezing storage bags, freezer bags, right? And these are fantastic little bags. They have little sayings on them that are really cute, and they are encouraging for moms.
I'm holding the arnica under my tongue to dissolve it.
They have little spaces here for you to write on. But one of the best things that I love that we just came out with are these freezer bag storage adapters. Okay,
they look something that could be very invasive if you used it somewhere else. But they're great when you hook them on a pump.
Use them on the pump. Okay, so here's how this works. I love this thing. Okay, so you know how a lot of those storage bag adapters are so flimsy and your bags can fall off of there, and you never want your bag to fall off because you'll lose your milk, okay? So if you wanted to pump directly into the bag, what you can do is you can screw this little adapter on like this. It has these little pinch clips, and it actually goes right into the bag like that, and it holds tightly. So it actually, you can pump directly into the bag. I love this thing. It's so great because we've
actually
really
played
strong.
with these. We filled these up in tugs. They grip very, very, very well.
It's really great.
They're gusseted at the bottom.
Yep.
Like
awesome. And then what's great is so they hold really well, but then when you go to release it, simple little release like that. Squeeze the air out, seal it up, and you're good to go. Okay, so these are amazing. These are standard neck, so they do fit. Other people have asked if they can fit on other pumps. They can, but they come as a pack of 2. Looks like this. Here's the pack of 2.
And 5 of you are going to win the pump bags and these tonight.
Little storage adapters.
5 of you.
Who wants it?
fair enough.
He wants one.
Well, it's,
He wants one.
it's a good night. It's a good night.
Okay.
Let me see here. There's one about lanolin. We already did that. We already did features of a pump. Will I be at MommyCon Orlando? No. I can only do Austin this year, and I did that. Mm-hmm. So there we go. This is good. How do I know when my baby is done feeding?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it kind of goes back to, how do I know my baby's getting enough? How do I know what it sounds like for my baby to be eating versus sucking? Let's talk about the 4 ways, and this is something I go over in my class. There's a whole chapter on this too, because we don't know how much a baby actually is supposed to eat. Again, we talked about it's not 20 minutes or 40 minutes, and then I know my baby's done eating. But there are certain things you can look for to know that the baby has actually finished the feeding. Here's the 4 ways that you know that your baby got enough. One is, when you start the feeding, what you want to do is feel your breast, because it's going to feel full, right? So you feel the breast, get in the habit of kind of feeling it a little bit, latching the baby. After the baby's done eating, feel your breast again. And if your breast, it feels softer and emptier, and your shirt and your pillow's not soaking wet underneath you, then it went into the baby. It's real complicated, I know, but it was there, now it's gone. That's way better indication that your baby got milk than how much time did the baby spend at the breast. The milk went into the baby. Second thing, and this is going to be something that you need to listen for, is audible swallows. And the way it sounds when a baby's swallowing, it's different than a breath. It sounds like, so it's in the throat. You'll hear the baby start to suck at the beginning, before the letdown, before the milk starts to begin. It takes a minute or so. And then all of a sudden the baby starts to slow down their sucking, and you hear suck, 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 suck. And for those of you out there, you know what I'm talking about. So you want to listen carefully. Listen for those sucks and swallows. If you're not hearing swallows, good chance the baby's not eating anymore, and it could be time to take the baby off, burp the baby. Either you're done with the feeding, or latch the baby to the other side and see if the baby wants to take more. If the baby continues to swallow, then the feeding's not over. As long as your baby continues to swallow, I would say that's a good indication that the feeding needs to continue. When your baby's just sucking and there's no swallowing going on, and do you guys know what I mean by just sucking and you just feel those little sucks and they're just kind of pacifying, the feeding's probably over at that point. Third thing that you know your baby got enough is wet diapers. Okay, so again, like we talked about before, 6 to 8 wet diapers in 24 hours. You're looking for those wet diapers. That's going to tell you that the baby's getting fluid, that the baby's hydrated. I can't tell you how many times I get calls from moms doing consultations, wanting a consultation because they're afraid their baby's not eating enough, the baby's crying all the time, I don't think I'm making enough. And the very first question I ask them, how many wet diapers? And they're like, oh, so many I can't count.
They're good.
I'm like, okay, you may have other issues that we need to talk about. Maybe you're not burping enough. Maybe there's something else going on, but it's not.
Can we go over burping since you have a doll here too? So finish your train of thought, and then we're going to talk about your burping.
So, it's not the wet diapers are going to be probably one of your best objective signs that the baby's got enough fluid and that there's nothing to worry about. There's no emergency, right? So if you got lots of wet diapers, there's no major emergency going on. And then the fourth thing, which leads into the burping, which is good, the fourth way to know that your baby got enough is that your baby comes off the breast satisfied. Now, that's a loaded kind of question, because satisfied doesn't mean that they're not crying. It means you take them off the breast, they may start crying, you put them back on the breast, they fall back asleep. How many of you know what I'm talking about?
I just mean the baby has you wrapped around his finger.
Baby comes off the breast, crying, screaming. Everybody's like, baby's still hungry. You put the baby back on the breast, baby falls back asleep. A hungry baby will not fall back asleep. A hungry baby is going to eat.
Oh, that's a good question. Remind me, dirty diapers, or can I just ask you now?
Yeah, go ahead.
What if your baby goes a few days without having a poopy diaper?
Okay.
A breastfed baby, that's not a bad thing.
No. Breastfed babies, especially after a couple weeks, can go, in the beginning they're going to poop probably a lot, a few times a day, but breastfed babies can go up to an entire week without pooping, and it can still be normal. A week.
My sister freaked her out.
Yeah,
because one of the kids, I forget which one, wasn't pooping, and it was like, what is going on? So I luckily had her in my phone, and I was like, what's up with this? It's normal. It's normal. It's fine.
Typically, newborns will poop several times a day. You'll see that little like squirting poops coming out. But as the baby starts to get older,
Lunchables mustard, we always call it. Lunchables mustard.
What's happening is the baby's utilizing all of the milk. There's not a lot wasted when you're breastfeeding. And so the baby's utilizing it, the baby's growing, and it could take days for the baby to poop. Again, that's why I tend to really talk about the wet diapers. Because if I started to tell you, watch those poop diapers, they could skip days. They could skip several days. And that's normal. That's not telling me that the baby's not getting enough. Wet diapers. Yeah. Think about this. When you drink a lot, okay, do you pee like 3 days later, or do you pee that day? You know, when you drink, you pee. Okay, so if you're peeing, or if your baby's peeing, it's not what you fed the baby 3 days ago. It's that the baby got milk that day. You drink, you pee. You drink, you pee. Just the way we would. And so if your baby's peeing, your baby's drinking. Yeah. If they're not getting anything else, then they're getting breast milk. Okay? And so there's no emergency. There's no emergency. So those are, and I always tell, because you get really tired. You're like, how many diapers did I have? I didn't write it down. Here's a really good trick. What you could do is take like a stack of like 10 diapers each morning or every day, and make the stack and put it aside so that when you're changing the baby's diapers, if you lost track, you know how many you actually did. Because I used to forget all the time to write them down, and then you're like, oh my God, how many did we go through? So have a stack each day and just keep pulling from it. I can't see the screen. So
someone just asked, they need a chat with toddler preschool feeding issues. I'm actually working on one of those right now when I get back to Denver. I have access to an absolutely brilliant feeding specialist. So I'm going to do a whole Q&A with her on toddler preschool feeding issues, etc., with solids and whatnot. Awesome. And it's going to be wonderful. I'm super jazzed about it, actually.
Sorry, there's a bug.
So, yeah, there's a bug in here. So let's talk about that burping.
Burping. Okay, so
it's also getting warm in here.
Yeah, it's getting warm.
We had to turn the AC off because it is loud, but now it's getting warm.
How it sounds?
We're almost done. We can only do this like 7 minutes.
Okay, so let's do some burping because
someone just said Dawn easy peasy. Yes, it's gonna be Dawn. So I'll let you have all the details when it's finalized.
Let's talk about how to burp a baby. Okay, because most of us learn to burp a baby by patting like this. Okay. And I don't typically burp a baby by patting them, because here's the thing, when you have to burp, does somebody need to pat you on the back to get you to burp?
No, I need to relax.
Right? You need to relax.
It's just like if you're constipated.
Exactly, you need to relax. Okay?
You don't need to be jostled.
And actually, patting the baby, and especially if you're not getting the burp, people tend to pat harder and harder. That's going to actually tense up the baby. The baby needs to relax their diaphragm in order to burp properly. Burping is one of the most important parts of the feeding, especially if you want to prevent all that screaming and crying that happens. Babies, especially when the milk first lets down, or if you have an oversupply, or just any baby while they're breastfeeding, people think that because they're feeding from the breast, there's this misconception that there's no air in the breast, and so therefore they don't need to burp. That is completely false. Anybody who swallows air. So regardless of whether it's a bottle or the breast, they're swallowing air, and they do need to be burped. However, their burps are usually quieter. There's less air going in when they're breastfeeding, so you may not hear it, but you could feel the burp coming out. My answer to how to burp is to watch your baby, because you want to be doing this not just at the end of the feeding or when you switch sides, but to watch for baby's cues of when to burp. So for example, you're breastfeeding the baby, you're just latched on, and the baby right after the angels.
Burping angels.
The baby just latched on, the baby just started to get the letdown, and the baby is kind of pulling or arching their back. That's a sign, and it could be like a few minutes into the feeding, the baby actually needs to be taken off the breast and burped before that air bubble goes so far down, it's into their intestine. Now you've
And
got
then
to wait
it's
an
really
hour.
sucky.
Exactly. You want to get that up. Depending on how your milk flows, depending on how hard your baby's gulping, watching your baby for signs of like arching their back or like they're eating fine, then all of a sudden they do this like jerking motion. That's like you're drinking something really fast and it hurts, like it goes down too hard. That's the air bubble going in, and that you go, oh, okay, it's time for the baby to burp. So what you're going to do is take the baby off, and then the way that I like to burp a baby, there's 2 ways to get your baby to burp, and that is not padding, but the baby needs to, the 2 rules for burping are the baby needs to be awake, not sleeping, and not crying. So those 2 things. You need the baby awake and not crying. Not an easy task if you take the baby off and they're hungry, right?
We only have 4 minutes.
Okay, so how do you do that? I like to hold the baby under the chin like that, pinky under the arm. And I have a whole Calming Your Fussy Baby episode. I think it's, I don't know, on my index list. Joe will post it. This goes over this in detail. Holding the baby and moving the baby up and down in like, not a shaking, but a nice even motion like this and shushing in their ear gets the baby to relax just long enough. Your hands on their diaphragm. You can feel the burp come out. It's a little tiny burp, done, back on the breast. You might need to repeat that several times during the feeding.
And I think it's interesting also, like, everybody reacts to rhythm and movement, and it's why like those are so important during labor, you know, to keep your body moving and keep it going over and over, you know. It
this
relaxes
motion,
you.
Think about it. Your baby relaxes so much when they're in motion because that's what they're used to in utero. You didn't just lay still. Think about when your baby was the most restless is when you lay down to go to bed at night. When you're moving all day, they're like happy and calm. They're not doing anything.
You lay down, they're like...
Exactly. So they're used to that.
So yeah, we only have a couple minutes before Facebook boots us off, I think, unless they've changed it. It used to be an hour and a half was the limit. So we will talk for, you know, a couple more minutes, and see, like, when Facebook kicks us off. So I just want to say, in case we get kicked off, thank all of you for hanging out, and putting up with my... Oh, it leaked! Putting up with my ice bag. I want to thank Evenflo for helping us do this.
Thank you, Evenflo.
We will be reaching out and pulling winners tomorrow. And I want to thank Sherry and Joe for making the trek, couple hour drive up here to come see me in my skit.
Our pleasure.
And to do the Q&A.
Absolutely.
Because these are fun. And this was actually really fun tonight.
This was really cool.
Sitting on the floor is the way to go.
We found the way to go. Because usually my butt is killing me on that chair.
I am bruised, but I am not broken.
Yeah, well, this lets you let your leg be out straight and
you know,
it felt good.
This was great. So thank all of you. I hope you learned something. Make sure you like this video. That is also very important. Make sure you go follow Sherry's page because she's the IVCLC. I am not. So if you have questions, leave them. We will answer them in a video.
We'll be back again. We do this monthly.
Yeah, we do it monthly. And also make sure, like, you know, she's going to be doing videos on her own page. So make sure you like it.
Especially this month. I'll be doing a lot of live stuff.
It looks like I peed all over myself.
We love you
This bag is just...
We love you.
Leaky.
But no, I'll be doing a lot of live Q&A this month, especially a lot of focus on breastfeeding. This is my holiday. It's my holiday. So go to my page and leave your questions, and I'll be answering them live. I'll be just broadcasting from home. So, there you go.
So thank you all. Be good to yourselves. Try to get some sleep. And it's pouring down rain here, so this is going to be really fun.
Something unusual, rain. Again.
I think you're staying.
All right.
All right. Love you guys.
Thank you. Be good. Share the crap out of this with your friends.
Peace.
Bye.
Good night.